Mike Hayes. In this video, we'll be continuing the fascinating study of Barry Harris's family of dominants. We'll be looking at all sorts of ways of combining scales and arpeggios, and one thing you can be certain of, we'll come up with some sounds that we never would have thought of using the traditional chord scale theory. Okay, let's get started. In order for a guitarist to have a comprehensive understanding of music theory, it's essential to know three things. 1. The names of the notes of a scale. 2. The scale step numbers. And by scale step numbers, I'm referring to the various intervals. And 3. We need to know the location of the notes on the guitar fingerboard. To help you with this, throughout this video, we'll be presenting the scale in two forms, first as notes as we usually present them, and also the scale presented as intervals. Knowing the various intervals and their location on the guitar fingerboard will go a long way to help you understanding why and how something works. For example, here is a G mixolydian scale, and now here's the same scale shown as intervals. Okay, let's jump in. In this video, we're continuing the concepts that we began speaking about in our previous video. If you're new to the series, don't forget to check that out. I'll put a link in the description below. Essentially, we're working through a 2-5-1 chord progression in the key of C, and we're looking at the family of dominants. That's the relationship between an E7, B-flat 7, D-flat 7 and G7 as substitute ways of playing over the G dominant 7th chord in the second bar of our progression. Let's get the ball rolling by playing a G dominant bebop scale over the D minor and G7th. Here's that same chord progression with the exact same scale played over the progression. The only difference is, for the last two notes in bar 2, we're playing these notes up an octave higher. And this is a technique that Barry Harris refers to as pivoting. In previous videos, I've referred to this technique as octave displacement. Now, it means the same thing. What the idea is to break the monotony of a straight scale. It's to create a more interesting melodic contour. At any particular point of the scale, you can decide to play that note up or down an octave and then continue your scale run from your new starting point. Let's have a listen. In this next example, I'll be playing a G dominant bebop scale over the first bar. In the second bar, I'm going to use notes from the D-flat mixolydian. Here's the D-flat mixolydian shown as notes, and here is the same scale as intervals. In terms of intervals, the first note in bar 2, the A-flat, will be the 5th of the D-flat mixolydian. Here's the same combination of scales, only this time we're once again using the pivoting technique with the last two notes in the second bar. this next example, I'm using E mixolydian in the second bar. Here is the E mixolydian scale shown as notes, and here is the same scale as intervals. In terms of intervals, the first note in the second bar, the G sharp, is the third of E mixolydian. Here's an example of that pivoting technique again, only this time I'm pivoting on the fifth note in the first bar, and then continuing in a scale-wise fashion from there. Once again, I'm using E mixolydian in the second bar. In this next example, I'm using arpeggios in the second bar. I'm using B diminished seventh arpeggios, and when we play a B diminished seventh arpeggio over a G, we get G7 flat 9. I'm starting my B diminished seventh arpeggio on the note A flat at the 6th fret, and then I'm moving this exact same arpeggio shape up 3 frets higher. As we know, the diminished seventh chord repeats every 3 frets. Let's have a listen. Here's a variation of that same example. This time I'm playing the B diminished seventh ascending for the first 4 notes in the second bar, and then descending for the last 4 notes in bar 2. The first bar in this next example features an ascending F major 7th arpeggio. The last 4 notes in the first bar are from the G dominant bebop scale, and then in bar 2 I'm playing 2 ascending arpeggios. Now what I'm doing here is mixing 2 of the chords from our family of dominants. I'm thinking of a combination of B flat 7 for 2 beats, then D flat 7 for 2 beats. What I'm actually playing is an F minor 6th arpeggio and an A flat minor 6th arpeggio. The thinking behind that is that if we play a minor 6th on the 5th of the dominant, we produce the sound of a dominant 9th chord. So originally I was thinking of playing a B flat 7, and now I'm playing a minor 6th chord on the 5th of B flat 7. The 5th of B flat 7 is F, therefore I can play an F minor 6th. And in this instance I'm playing it as an arpeggio. And it's exactly the same for the last 4 notes. I'm originally thinking of a D flat 7th. The 5th of D flat 7 is A flat, therefore I can play an A flat minor 6th. Let's have a listen. For this next example, I'm using a 4-bar phrase that we created in a previous lesson, together with the example that you've just heard. It's the same set of chords in the background, but you'll hear an entirely different result because of the variety of the combinations that we're using. And here's one more example for you for this session. Of course, we haven't even begun to look at the possibilities that's available to us with this way of thinking. But hopefully I've got you thinking about different ways that you can approach combinations of arpeggios, chord substitutions, and all the other good stuff that we've been talking about. In the first bar of this example, I'm beginning with an ascending D minor 7th arpeggio, and then for the last 4 notes, I'm playing notes in a descending fashion from the G mixolydian. In bar 2, I'm thinking of a combination of B flat 7th for 2 beats and D flat 7th for the last 2 beats. For the first 2 beats, I'm playing a descending B flat 7th arpeggio. For the last 2 beats, I'm starting out playing 2 notes in a descending D flat 7th arpeggio, then I'm using the pivoting technique for the last 2 notes of the D flat 7th arpeggio. Well, that's it for today, folks. I do hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope there's something in this lesson that'll help you develop your own musical style on guitar. If you enjoyed this session and felt you got some value out of it and you'd like to support this channel, there's a link in the description below this video. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on all the good stuff. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like. It really helps us out. Until next time, all the very best with your guitar playing. Bye for now.